How are we doing, guys? So for those that don't know me, I spent 20 years as a frontline operational police officer with Greater Manchester Police, and many years as that spent policing the streets as a dog handler, general purpose dog handler, out and about there on the streets of my German Shepherd Ted. I've been fired in this question: how well are police dogs trained? Now, what I'm about to say is going to be real, it's going to be raw, it's going to be factual, and a lot of people won't want me to tell you this, but you know what? The truth's going to come out. So let's get into it. The short version is it depends entirely on the individual handler's proactiveness, what instructor they are provided with, and ultimately what team they end up on. Unfortunately, when it comes to dog selection, there's zero professionalisation in terms of consistent structure and strategy when it comes to dog selection and puppy breeding. Ultimately, a lot of the handlers end up with a gift dog which is given away by a member of the public. In terms of the initial training, I believe this sets the dog up to pass a course on a field. I don't think it's always practical for what you're going to need if you're going to be a proactive dog handler on the streets of Manchester, in terms of you're going to need your hard surface tracking, you're going to need the dog to know what it's supposed to do when it catches up to people garden hopping, dangling over fences with themselves presenting the legs. What do they do when the dog catches up to people hiding under cars? What do they do when you just chased a stolen car and 4 or 5 people are abandoning that car and running in all different directions? And also, what about if someone sets about you and tries to take you and the dog on? When they first pass the course and they're a police dog, I guarantee 99% of them would crawl up their own arse if somebody set about them. Now, I believe this should be done before, so the dogs are bulletproof when they go out and about in the streets. You know that 1, they'll certainly protect the handler, and 2, anyone who's fleeing, they're going to catch and detain, not do heel work. And I know some so-called experienced handlers on the teams who've had 2, 3, 4 dogs who are producing dogs that don't know what they're doing, and they're doing heel work when they should be straight chasing and detaining offenders. The environmental and the practical side of the job is ultimately left to your own devices to figure out when you get out and about on the streets. Now, this isn't great for the dog's welfare or the inexperienced handler's welfare, which has ultimately led to 2, maybe 3 instances lately where their own dogs have took the flight option instead of the fight because they don't know what they're doing because of the substandard training, which has led the dog to nip their own handler, and the decisions have been made by the so-called leaders to put them dogs down. The dogs are taught to stand out and stand off, which essentially what that means is, let's say somebody's committed whatever offence it is, the decision's been made to deploy the dog. You could be chasing a suspected stolen car, the offenders are running off, they get round a corner and stand still. The dog is supposed to stand in front of that person and bark. Now, this person could have a machete on them, they could be wanted for murder, you know, they could have just committed a aggravated burglary or street robbery. Is that in the best interest of the dog? Once that decision's been made, considering the threat, harm and risk and the high-end deployments that they're supposed to be dealing with, is that in the dog's best interest to stand in front of that offender and bark? To transform your dog from a field dog to a street dog, you know, a well-versed bit of kit, it's very difficult to do now. The support just isn't there. The in-house politics, the red tape, the bureaucracy, the backstabbing, you know, the scrutiny, zero support from the so-called leaders. You know, like I've said, incompetent, spineless, useless, zero backing. You know, very much like politicians in the government. As I've said before, there was more people investigating me and the dog for catching the burglar than there was the burglar who's, you know, broken into somebody's house and stolen the brand new Audi. The justification you have to do, the A, B, C, D, E's, the positives and negatives in each one. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? You chased him for 20 minutes and been rammed and bricked. Why didn't you shout, you've got a police dog 500 times? Madness, absolute madness. Fortunately, you know, I have learnt a lot on working a police dog on the streets of Manchester, and I've learnt so much more since I've come out of the police. And like I say, guys, for all your canine services, drop me a message. If you're in and around Stockport, you want your dog training, give us a shout. Let me know your thoughts in the comments about all this that I've raised today, and I'll catch you in the next one.